Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Tech Talks Evolving Distribution. Before we jump in today, we want to quickly shout out our sponsor, Aldrich Web Solutions. If you're a distributor trying to get more out of your digital presence, these are the guys that have been helping companies actually win online for over 20 years.
So we're excited to have you today on today's episode. This is a show where we break down how distribution is actually evolving. What's working, what's not, what you should be paying attention to. Anywhere from ERP to e-commerce, we're talking to the people in the trenches doing the work.
That's right. We have conversations with distributors, we have conversations with solution partners, and we have conversations with industry experts just like yourself, so you're sure to gain some value out of this conversation. So without further ado, let the Tech Talk begin. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Tech Talks. As always, Corey Hayes here alongside Bill Rosado. Bill, how are you doing today, my friend?
Wonderful. Father's Day, we went ahead and had Mother Nature bring us some tornadoes in the region. Yeah. So what a wonderful gift it was that we dodged them somehow, that they bounce all around us, huh, Corey?
Yeah, leave it to the women to just ruin the one day men get, right? Just play it out, right? So many people just went ahead and turned this podcast off. No, super excited to be here today. And then also want to introduce to all the listeners our very special guest today. We have David Roberts, CEO over at SugarAI. David, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great too. And I'll build on the Father's Day comments. It was a fantastic weekend here in Colorado. The weather was perfect. And I took my boys out on a long hike, and nothing better than being in the mountains of Colorado over Father's Day weekend.
Well, glad you weren't huddled in your basement like Bill and I were. So nice to hear. Yeah, super excited to have you on today. This is a conversation that we have been trying to have for a while now. All of our listeners, we had to take a little bit of a backstock break and run some episodes we've had. I've recently had my second son born in May. So we're kind of getting back into the saddle here. It's been a little while since we've recorded. So David, super excited to have you on. Before we get into the conversation today and start rolling through things, why don't you just introduce us to yourself? Tell us a little bit about your story. Tell us a little bit about SugarAI and what it is that you guys do in the marketplace. Just give us the rundown on who David Roberts is.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thanks, Corey. I've spent a big part of my career in and around CRM and trying to help sellers get the most out of the technology that supports them. The career started at Anderson Consulting, which became Accenture. I was in the CRM practice there and worked actually with a couple different distribution clients back then. And since then, I've kind of gone on to a few different tech CEO roles, and the latest is with Sugar. We are a platform that really focuses on helping sellers get value from and see value from the CRM platform they use to engage with their customers. And we've always had that mission. Our evolution has kind of gone from open source when the company first started to more of a horizontal SaaS-based CRM platform today. I believe we're going to be able to leverage AI to deliver on that 30-year-old promise, right? Being able to help sellers get more value out of the platform than the effort they put into it. And I think AI is going to unlock that potential for us, and was a big part of what drove our latest chapter and name change. So I'm excited to be here and to share a little bit about what that looks like.
Yeah. Well, it's incredible that you say AI, right? We jump out of the chute like we're 2 minutes in and we're already talking AI. And what we see, that Corey and I see, right, and having a lot of conversations, is distributors and manufacturers all think they need AI, David, but they struggle understanding what it is, right? I mean, they're being told a lot of different things. If you don't mind, kind of to break path here, I know Corey was thinking of going a different direction. Hey, what about AI, right? How's that going to benefit manufacturers and distributors in as far as with Sugar and what you guys are talking about?
Yeah, well, AI is the answer to everything right now. And a lot of people are kind of undertaking AI projects for the sake of AI. We're thinking about that really differently. In fact, I keep defining those letters in different ways, right? Artificial intelligence is obviously what it stands for, but we talk about applied intelligence. We talk about account impact. We talk about all the other things that AI could stand for in the way sugar shows up. When you look at distribution, one of the common characteristics is huge variety and breadth of accounts, large product catalogs. Places that have immense amounts of data and complexity are places where I believe AI is going to really simplify things. And distribution is one of the areas where that's really going to play out. It's not going to be by parking a co-pilot or a sidecar next to the applications you use. It's going to be places that hopefully people don't even realize that AI is at play. It's embedded in the way a business workflow works, or it's embedded in the way that data is brought to life for in our case, for the seller. So I think it plays a huge role in distribution, and hopefully we'll get into more of that.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and one of the main reasons why I was excited for a conversation today, because I'll be honest, in almost every conversation we have, we've asked the question, "What is a popular trend in technology currently that our guests believe is overhyped?" Uh,
Yep.
10 times out of 10 so far, it's been AI. So it's interesting to have this conversation with a company that literally has AI in their name, and talk about, ways that you think it is changing the marketplace. So, um, you know, I'm really excited to get a little bit more into the weeds on it, but let's kind of set that up and navigate through there. So, what is one thing both in the manufacturing and distributing industry that people believe about technology that, in your opinion, is just completely wrong?
Well, this might be a funny comment from a tech CEO, but I think the thing people believe is that technology is going to solve the problem, right? And we deal with this within our business. Someone comes along and says, "I have a new piece of technology, I have a new software product. We're going to turn it on. And it's going to solve all our problems." And usually, if you apply technology to a mess, you get a faster, more. You get to the mess faster, right? It takes a real understanding of the business outcomes that you're trying to achieve. And this is what I was trained on at Accenture in all those years, is that really trying to figure out the objectives, the business objectives that you expect technology to help you solve, and then being really careful about how you use technology to help you solve them. And we'll talk about that in the AI topic as well. But I think sometimes people think they're going to buy a piece of software or implement a piece of technology, and it's going to solve whatever issue or whatever challenge they're facing.
Do you think that sometimes that comes because there's a disconnection within the organization? So there's a champion, right, that really just thinks this software solves everything, but they're disconnected from the actual end user?
I do. I think there's a big disconnect. And I always worried when I was at Accenture when my customer was just the CIO, right? If I felt like I had a business customer, a head of sales. I mean, my first ever CRM project was at a company called AMP Incorporated that distributed tons and tons of electrical connectors. And our champion was the head of sales. And he had specific goals that he was trying to achieve. And one level down for that was the head of RevOps. And I actually, during that 18 months in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, I don't think I spent time with the IT team. I was really spending time with the business leaders who had an objective that they wanted us to help them achieve. And sure, there's a big part of technology that helped enable that, but it was led by that business sponsor.
Yeah. So do you think the cover the gap between the end user and the champion, is it really just as simple as more communication, more education, or how would you approach giving advice to people to narrow that gap and make sure everybody's on the same page?
Well, often it's when these big initiatives and projects are funded, the CFO is the person that decision ultimately comes to. The project might be proposed by the CIO, but I think that CFO being relentless about making sure that the business sponsor has a clear objective and that there's a business case for the investment they're making, and that they've got objectives they want to go achieve and that they're measuring those objectives. I think technology is a means to an end, not an end in and of itself. And I think that CFO holding those business leaders to account for the investments they want to go make is a big, big part of what makes these projects successful.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's kind of go another path. So, David, what do you think separates companies that succeed in technology to those that really, really just struggle with technology?
Well, maybe this kind of continues on that same theme, but I think when there's a clear business objective that's at the bullseye of what a technology initiative is going to go achieve, it has such a higher success rate, right? I think often technologists trying to push the technology uphill, trying to convince people it's valuable, talking to them in kind of an inside out way rather than outside in kind of business led way. When those projects are sponsored by the business owners who've got a clear objective they're trying to achieve, they succeed at much higher rate than when they're being pushed uphill by the technology leaders.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So let me take this approach from a different, because in our get to know you meeting, when we were just learning a little bit more about you, David, you mentioned that you kind of came up through the implementation roles into, more, which is great because that's really where I've come from as well, is the implementation role. And I think kind of being somebody that's, for lack of a better way of putting it, in that entry level role, low on the totem pole, I guess is the best way that I know to say it. Trying to find what our identity is, what our culture is as a company, and work our way into success. I think sometimes, kind of going back to our first question, sometimes there's a gap there between the executive role and those that are in the more operational mode. Being on both sides of that coin, how have you tackled that, and what would you give advice to executives that are looking to build more buy-in from their operational people?
Yeah. Well, when I started my career at Anderson, I used to think that in the course of an implementation, when you got to go live, you got to the finish line. And I came to believe that that's the starting line, right? Like if you're running a marathon, you spend endless days and weeks and months training. That's the implementation. It gets you to the starting line. Now you got to go run the race, right? So when you go live with a new a new CRM platform, to use that example, that's the beginning of the journey, right? Trying to help think about rollout and adoption. How do you actually help the sales managers coach to the new way you want to run a sales organization? That all begins once you go live. And so in the beginning, I used to think we'd celebrate go live, and it was just the start of the next race. So I think
I'll tell you on the sales side, right? As an account executive, I celebrate go live. Implementation might not, right? But sales do.
Yeah. Well, it's true, except a lot of the sales leaders that work for me and that work for other companies that look like ours are incentivized not only to close new business, but there's a huge retention aspect. And in software, there's a concept called gross retention rate, and all of our companies are valued based on those gross retention rates. If customers stay with you over the course of, I don't know, let's call it a 7-year lifetime value, it's an incredibly valuable business. If they stay for 2 years, it doesn't pay off the cost of sales, right? So it's really important that companies think not only about getting to go live, but how they actually retain those customers and expand them over time following that go live.
Yeah, and so you bring up an interesting point, because I think that that's something we see a lot as sellers in the space, mainly distribution space. We have a lot of conversations with people that have really maybe been on a platform a year or two and are ready to jump ship. So do you think, and really just kind of opening this up for conversation with all of us, do you think it's really just our sellers just overhyping the product and under delivering, or is it overpromise, under delivering? Is there a certain buy-in aspect that implementers are missing? Like what is the reason that there's so much volatility within the space?
Yeah. Well, I think it really depends on the software and technology. I know you all spend a lot of time with ERP, all right? Like implementing a new ERP system, the only way to drive inventory or reduce stock or move product around, you can only do it through the ERP system. Adoption isn't really a question, because unless you're using the technology that's been built to run those processes, you can't run your business. I think CRM is a different game. The best sellers, could, if they're exceeding their number every single quarter and they're not entering their opportunities into the CRM system, is anyone really going to give them a hard time about it? I mean, they may a bit, But if they're delivering on their sales numbers, they kind of get to do what they want to go do. So it's a different game, I think, in the front office. Distributors and manufacturers have put all this time and energy into thinking about precision in the back office, right? Margins are thin. It's really important that quality's right. So they think about precision of manufacturing processes, precision in terms of like quality processes or inventory processes or invoicing processes. There's a huge amount of attention that's gone into helping businesses run incredibly well in the back office. I think we're on the verge of being able to bring that same sort of precision to the front office. And I think that's only going to be possible through AI. And I can talk a little bit about why I believe that, but I think the days of precision being something that's back office only are coming to an end in manufacturing and distribution.
Yeah, I think you're kind of almost setting yourself up for it, because this is where I was going. What is SugarAI doing to change that, or to bring us to bring the industry into the new age? How is SugarAI approaching that?
Well, I listened to a couple of your previous podcasts, and you talked about this question of a popular technology trend that's being overhyped. And you're right. All your guests are talking about AI being the thing that's overhyped. I'm telling you, it can't be hyped enough. So I have a very, very different perspective. I do believe with some of the comments that like context matters, the application of the technology matters, how you go leverage data and content to make it powerful really matter. And some of your guests have talked about those things. But like it's here, and for an industry where margins and precision and huge volumes of data and complexity matter, there's nothing that's going to bring a change like AI is going to bring a change, right? So being able, for example, and I think I might have given you this example, but if you're an account manager and you're sitting on top of a few different distribution customers, and you've got a catalog of 10,000 parts, how do you have any idea whether people are reordering, not reordering, changing their mix? How do you ever figure out where the upsell opportunity looks like? The complexity and the volume is overwhelming. Nobody can get their head around it. So sellers sell what they know. They'll just keep on selling, I don't know, within that product catalog, the product lines they're comfortable with. And those may or may not be what a customer base or a distributor, where that opportunity really exists. So what AI is able to do is consume massive amount of complexity and be able to provide very simple action or guidance on where you go look or what you go say or which product you go introduce to a distributor or a customer. And I think distribution is set up perfectly, given its margin profile and its complexity profile, to take advantage of these technologies.
Well, that's some great insight, right? And you're right. Plenty of guests feel AI is so overhyped, and for you just to nail it, right, and take it down to exactly what it is, and it's taking those complexities and making it exactly what they need in order to get that return on investment. I mean, that's well thought, right? And that's spot on. Yeah.
And Bill, I had an engineering leader say this to me. Structured data is the language of business, and unstructured data is the language of relationships, right? So sure, like in manufacturing, structured data has a huge place, right? But every seller is having Zoom calls, conversations, meetings. All of their interactions are largely unstructured. So what we're releasing in Q3 here is a product that allows you to consume all Zoom and Teams meetings and be able to break them down, make sense of that unstructured data, and put it in the context of an account or an opportunity or a territory so that the CRM system actually knows what's going on. It doesn't require you to go back to your office on a Friday afternoon and spend 2 hours updating the CRM because it's all taken care of for you. That's AI in a practical application, taking unstructured relationship-based information or data and putting it back in the context of the business in the way that can help point the seller in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think it's important. First of all, let me say I love it. This is the reason Tech Talks the idea of it was invented, was to allow industry leaders to come onto a space and basically create their argument and to take a flip perspective on this and essentially create your argument. I think is great, and I think I really have to agree with you, David, because even though AI across the board is what we've heard in this particular question, the answer is almost, unanimously, it's got to have the right data on the front end. You've got to put the
Totally.
right thing. Yeah. And so with that filter in mind, if you are creating, and essentially what you're talking about, SugarAI is doing, if you're creating on the front office the right structured data flowing into the back office, and if you can take advantages of AI in both areas, that's really, it's a game changer. It's a game changer because so many people are worried what they're putting into AI, and they're so scared of it that it's going to spit out the wrong thing, so they just don't trust it at all. But really,
Yeah.
what you're saying, if I'm understanding you correctly, is using AI to take that unstructured data, unstructured conversation, put it into a structured position, and then that way both front end, back end are unanimously communicating, or maybe not seamlessly is where I'm looking for, seamlessly communicating with one another.
Yeah. Or taking a huge volume of structured data and making sense of it. Either way.
Yeah.
Right. So I think if you look at like an ERP back office team, there's usually data people as part of that team. And there's some sellers, right, that really love getting inventory reports or getting order reports. And right. So the answer a lot of times is because the way back office people think, they're really comfortable with data. They're really comfortable with process. They're really comfortable with structure. Their answer is, I know what I'll do. I'll create a new report for my sellers called the inventory balance report. And it's going to sort all accounts by inventory levels. And I'm going to email it out to them every Monday. And of course, they're going to open it up and dig through it and find their customers and figure out where inventory levels are dropping. Like there are some sellers who are capable of doing that for sure. But we're focused on the middle 60, right? The top 20 always hit their number. The bottom 20 are hopeless. The middle 60, if you can help them be a little bit better at how they engage their customers and move it to the right by 10%, it has massive impact on growth and expansion for manufacturing and distribution customers. So telling them where to look and what to go figure out, like don't make them dig through reports. Don't make them look at dashboards. Like the days of insights, I think, are over. We don't need to give sellers insights. We need to tell them this account isn't reordering at the same rate. Go ask them why they've stopped ordering brake pads and rotors when they've demonstrated over years that they've bought in that kind of pattern. And AI is a great pattern recognition tool, but it's got to be given the context and the focus to be able to make sense of that information.
Yeah, I think you're already hitting on what I was getting ready to ask you, is where the rubber meets the road. What does this mean for sellers? How is it going to change their day to day? What's going to be better about their life and their sales cadence? And maybe just talk a little bit to that, like what this implementing this kind of technology actually means for the people that are going through sales cadences.
So I think of sellers and CRM like a seesaw, right? So it's largely been a management tool. There's a huge amount of effort that sellers are putting in, and there's very little value they're getting back out. In fact, if they put too much information in, then Bill, Corey, your manager is going to come to you and ask you what's going on with all the data you put in there and why you haven't focused on a certain opportunity, right? And what we're trying to do is actually turn that the other way around so that there's a lot less effort required by the seller and a lot more value that they're receiving. And specifically, it's value like, I know I sit on top of a distributor who's got hundreds of customers and working through thousands of SKUs, and I know which ones aren't being reordered. Or I know that certain customers in certain industries tend to buy these 12 products together, and some of those are only buying 6 of the 12. Why wouldn't you go ask them about the other 6? Because they share all the same characteristics as those other customers. Or you've got opportunities that exist that aren't getting the attention they need, and you did really good discovery on the opportunity, and you lost your champion. And the product ought to be able to tell you that you got to go identify a champion because you're missing your champion, and you're never going to move that deal forward without a new champion. And some people just try to muscle it past the fact they lost their champion. It's never going to happen, right? So there's so much information we can use to guide sellers toward the right actions, because people are coming at them all day long and they're reacting all day long. It's not that they are focused on the wrong things. It's just, it's hard to keep your head above the fray sometimes.
Yeah. Bill, I'm sorry, I'm stepping all over you here. I know you're setting up a few things, but just as somebody that's in selling cycles, and I report to Bill every day, just so everybody knows, I report to Bill every day on what's going into my CRM. But somebody that's utilizing some AI tools to really evaluate the health of my deal. I will say there's been a lot of times I've come out of those conversations, those unstructured conversations, thinking I have XYZ, I'm moving in the right direction. And then I start to actually get down to the nitty gritty of what's going on in my deal. And I realize I don't have that good of leverage going on. It's interesting, and I do think you are right. This is going to be the new wave of how things are done and flowing into the back office. And Bill, I don't want to step on your toes anymore. All I'm saying is, David, I need you to help me in my conversations with Bill, because it's rough right now. The guy's rough on me.
It's rough for everyone right now, right?
Well, and it's funny, right? So I came back from a conference a few months ago, and there were manufacturers and distributors there, and we had a round table, and I was in charge of AI as far as sales and marketing, right? So to have that topic, the majority of the sales team said, "You're exactly right. That's a marketing thing. AI is not a sales thing." And I was like, "What?" And like, "Oh yeah, what we do," and it is right back to that unstructured. What we do has nothing to do with AI, right? So just let's focus on marketing. Okay, well, you're missing the point here, because there are tools to make things easier for you to do your job, so you can go out, like you said, and increase either with a current customer the market share that you have, or B, have more time with a prospect, right? Because that conversation with David, the customer, now I can go talk to Corey, right, who's not a customer. And sales has to adopt AI as part of their new job. Yeah.
And that's not to minimize. I'll tell you, like I often describe it as an Iron Man suit for sellers. People buy from people. We're not going to go replace the seller, right? But we can make them stronger, faster, better. And as an example, if you use MedPick and you're really good at identifying all the decision criteria that go into a sale, if you're really good at creating mutual close plans, every single one of our customers has a sales cycle, and it's like, I've implemented so many of these. There are always 6 or 7 stages, and it starts with discovery, and then it goes to solutioning, and then it goes to present, propose, negotiation. It's always the same stages. What if the application, every time you move from solution to present, what if it took all the data that you captured as part of discovery and built you the first draft of your proposal for you, right? So here's a 15-page pitch that's been tailored to your customer based on that great discovery work that includes the products you've identified because you understand what's going on with that customer. It doesn't have to be the proposal you go put in front of the customer, but maybe it got you 80% of the way there. Right. So you're not having to build bespoke presentations every single time you move from stage 2 to stage 3 of a sales cycle. That just means you get more time out with your customer, more time thinking about how you're going to handle objections, like things that are likely to come up in that pitch that won't be covered by the deck. Right. So this is our vision. We can go help sellers sell, and every commercial leader should want that middle 60 to perform better. And we're going to give them the tools to be able to do that.
And not to tell you how to do your job, Bill, but if you did your med pick right, you could handle that objection. Okay, so all right.
There you go. That's it.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Corey. It's all yours, brother.
What does the average company underestimate when they begin implementing new technology? All these tools and tricks that we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, being a guy who's done a ton of implementations, it was always process and data. We talk about data migration routines. We talk about interface routines. We talk about, process definitions. In the world of AI, it can be a lot looser than that, right? What starts to become incredibly important in an implementation is context, and context can come in so many different forms. Like now you're going to end up loading in process documents or marketing materials or objection handling or competitive battle cards. You're going to give the application all that context so it can do a better job of helping guide you through things. So implementations are going to be certainly process and data will always be part of how we think about implementing new technologies. But I think we're going to think about that in a very different way when it comes to creating context for the application to be able to help us know what to go do. And there might be pre-implementation work that customers will have to go do to be able to define all those things so that they can be the bedrock of what helps the sellers know how to go execute well.
Well, this has been very insightful, especially from an AI perspective, right? The thing that manufacturing and distributing are concerned about. So I greatly appreciate it. But one thing, right? What's the one thing that you would put like on a t-shirt or a billboard? What's that advice, right, that you would share with the industry?
Well, I think I don't know. I think in manufacturing and distribution, account managers and sellers haven't been viewed as valuable in some ways as all the people who run the core of the business, the manufacturing, the shipping, the inventory management. Like because these businesses have thin margins, because quality's got to be so paramount. I think the front office hasn't had the same respect, hasn't had the same attention, hasn't had the same investment. And I think I guess my piece of advice would be that can change, right? You can bring as much precision to the front office as you've invested in the back office. You're going to do it in a very different way, but you can bring precision and excellent execution to the front office. And I would encourage manufacturing and distribution companies to figure out how they go do that.
Great advice.
Yeah, great advice. And I think just to tag on with what you're saying, I think a lot of it comes down to education in the space, because I think when you're conceptually you build that, I think every distributor worth their salt would say, yeah, it makes sense. I think a lot of it comes down to finding the right partners to help you do such things, and finding the right tools and people in place. Go ahead.
Well, and Corey, I'll tell you a story. I was just out sitting with a CFO of a really large manufacturing and distribution company, and he told me he's seeing a huge amount of turnover in the sales ranks, right? All these 65-year-olds who've been in the industry forever, who know the product catalog like the back of their hands, that know the distribution network inside and out, like they're retiring. And for them to onboard a new salesperson, he told me it's 3 years to return on investment. 3 years to onboard a new salesperson to the point where they're making more for the company than they're costing them, right? Like, wow. And I don't know how you replace this workforce of people who've been in these companies for 45 years. I got 16 and 14-year-old boys. My kids aren't going to spend 45 years at one place, right? We're going to see much more volatility in the employment ranks. I don't know how you do it if you're not cheating, using advanced technologies to help those salespeople be way smarter and work way more effectively than the people they're replacing. I don't know how it continues to work. So, it's a huge opportunity for companies to be able to weather through that.
So that you're spot on that.
I agree.
And I don't know that everybody sees the big picture of that, but just in conception, think about this. How many baby boomers are in the workforce still? And let's just say they worked for a company just 30 years, David, not even 45 years, just 30 years, and add up in 2030, how many of those people are gone, and what are those hours combined, right, within an organization, within an industry, however you want to add it up. We're not going to be able to replace that. You just can't replace it. And you're right. You got to find a way. What's the cheat code, right, in order to get somebody up and running faster? Because you don't have 15 to 20 years for them to get to that, right, let alone 3.
Well, and I'm a Gen Xer. You look at these generations and how they view work and how they think about work and how they think about companies and how they think about families and how they think about their personal lives. Like, it's not just baby boomers and Gen Xers are coming out of the workforce. It's that people are thinking about work in different ways and are moving around a lot more fluidly, and we're going to have to figure out how to solve the problem in a very different way. The technology is there to help us do it, not through random acts of AI, but through really focused application that narrows the context and points people in the right direction.
And to approach it from my perspective, because I'm a Gen Zer, if you're looking at a route of technology to essentially replace that workforce, that's a great way to think about it. But also think about it as a way to attract the new workforce, because Gen Zers are going to want to be in an environment where they can take advantage of tools around them to succeed.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. Well, last question I'll ask. where can we learn more about SugarAI? If we're a distributor manufacturer and we're needing the tools, we're needing a partner like SugarAI, where can we find out more about you and get in touch with somebody from Sugar?
Well, I mean, you can certainly go out and look at our website. That's the old way of doing things. I mean, everybody today is going out and asking ChatGPT what the best CRM solutions are for manufacturers and distributors and why that is so relevant to them. Our whole influence marketing team is now thinking about that in very different ways. We want to go show up in the traffic that's driving these LLMs and these platforms. So, yeah, obviously our website's out there, but
yeah.
I sure hope to goodness that we're showing up in all those searches people are doing out in their ChatGPT solutions.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Before I go to close it, Bill, is there any other thoughts, comments, concerns you have?
So what a powerful episode and what a great guest you've been, David. And I just hope that people take the time to listen to this, maybe listen to it multiple times, and then share it with the people that need to hear this. Because there's some people at that C-suite, right, that aren't thinking the way you're thinking, David, right? And I'd love people to share that, because there's people in Corey's seat, right, that are like, we need these kind of tools. And please share this episode, because it is great information. We greatly appreciate it, David.
I really appreciate it having me on, and the conversation's fascinating. I think, the funny thing is that, like, manufacturing and distribution has been maybe a little slower to adopt newer technology. There's no place where they can benefit more from it, right, given the profile of the industry. So it's really exciting opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. So you heard it here first. AI, not overhyped. Can't hype
not
it
overhyped.
Not overhyped. Lean into the curve. No, yeah, really appreciate it, and very thankful for you jumping on. Also thankful for all of our listeners who jumped on, stuck with us through the conversation. There are new Tech Talk episodes going live the first and the third Thursday of every single month, as well as our newsletter that we're posting on LinkedIn. That's a very fast growing community. We'd love for you to be a part of that. So go ahead, like, subscribe, and be a part of the conversation. David, thank you so much. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week and the rest of your day.
Yeah,
okay?
Thank you both so much.
Thank you. Bye. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Tech Talks Evolving Distribution. Thanks for tuning in.
And we hope you've gained some valuable insights on how to embrace digital transformation and stay ahead in the distribution industry.
A special thanks to our sponsor, Aldrich Web Solutions, for supporting this podcast. With over 20 years of experience, they've been helping distributors win online and maximize their digital presence. Be sure to check them out if you're ready to take your business to the next level.
And if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. And of course, share this with anyone who could benefit from this conversation.
We'll be back next time with more expert insights. And until then, keep evolving and embracing change.